Hi, my name is Evan Blair, and I'm the co-founder of ZeroFox.
Hi, I'm Jeremy Wood, and I'm the Vice President of Hootsuite.
Today, we're going to talk a little bit about the growth of social media and the impact it has on businesses, but more importantly, how ZeroFox and Hootsuite work together to not just help organizations grow their brand and expand their social media and digital footprint, but how they do that in a secure fashion from external risk as well as internal risk. We've gotten to the point where we've educated the general populace in the business world about don't click on emails. Small incidents here and there, but most people know not to engage with an email unless unless it really seems right. However, I don't think we have that level of awareness in the social media world, where everybody is just click happy, engage happy, and a lot of it's our customers, but a lot of it's our employees. And so it's interesting that we've started to see a lot more employees leverage capabilities that allow their individual employees to get trained, to get constant education, and to take control over protecting their personal social world, because it's just an extension of the business. And I know that you guys have looked at that, personal engagement and how that ties to the brand that you represent, whether it's you represent it because you simply work there or because you've become an advocate in purposefully. And so how do you see the individuality on social media playing with kind of brand and reputation growth and then some of the risks that may come there?
Yeah, it's interesting, like one of the things that comes to mind when you say that, I noticed that if you look at Twitter profiles like right now, you notice that like a lot of the more sort of well-known CEOs or executives often have in their little bio, their little blurb that these are my comments. This is not representative of the brand I'm immediately attached to. And I always think about sort of how people do that, and they're doing it purposefully to say, this is a forum that I can express my own feelings about. I do not want it associated with X company that I might work at.
Do you think that actually works?
It's a great question, right? I'd be curious to know if there's use cases where that's gotten people out of trouble. I suspect not. I suspect that there's just human behavior is that someone works or maybe they're a flagship personality, and you just simply humanistically you can't decouple the two.
Right.
And so there's an expectation, right? To your point about there's an expectation that they follow a certain line, and I'm not sure how I feel about that, because I think that if that was another person, they might have be able to get away with a little bit more, but there is that responsibility at that level. But I think going back to your original point, it's really interesting to see how some of the tools, some of the sort of education push that we're doing around behaviorally being representative of your brand and what does that stand for. And I think what we're doing with a lot of customers right now is really kind of almost teasing out those brand values and bringing those to the forefront of social behavior, right? And so again, not to beat a dead horse, but it's an education process. And to your point, we're seeing much more sort of company-wide education on brand values and now bringing social into that fold, right? So when you guys are off and you're at a cabin and you're on Instagram and you're an ambassador for the brand, because it's immediately connected. And so it's just something to have in front of mind. It's not sort of that's outside of business hours, that's inside business hours. And I think there's good tools to let you sort of keep track of that. And you guys do a really good job of being able to sort of span the bridge between sort of corporate and personal, and bringing everything into the fold. And so, I think there's a fairly, sort of non-evasive way to do that, where you're not sort of, breaking down some boundary between sort of your work professional life and your personal one.
Well, I guess it highlights the reason that organizations really need to be proactively looking at and monitoring and managing the reputation aspects of social media from a risk perspective, because it's not just the brand accounts, but it's the folks that are tied to the brand. And what could a simple tweet or post at 2 a.m. do to the organization, right? How could that change the position in their market when the stock market opens that next morning? Or what kind of compliance or major violation or fine may be levied against them because of something that was posted or said on a personal account but tied to the brand.
And I think one thing, like to touch on just on that final part, which is really interesting, is a lot of the time it's very unintentional, right?
Right.
So this is a thing where these tools are kind of have to do some of the heavy lifting for us, right? Because we might not know any better, or we might think that statement or that retweet or to follow that person is okay.
Right.
But within the sort of broader sort of corporate remit, there's some rules and there's some perimeters around that. And so we need sort of all of these tools, this functionality, this automated, sort of security perimeter, kind of looking out for our best interests as well. Because again, a lot of the time, some of these things that really blow up are very unintentional in nature.
Right. Well, I mean, and reputation has such a big impact on your revenue. Right. And if you look at the brands that use social media and organize in a large fashion in comparison to other major enterprises that don't, you'll see about a 40% outperformance when you look at their public stock values. Yeah. So socially aware and engaged brands do way better than non-social media aware and engaged brands. Yeah. And so if we're differentiating ourselves with our social engagement, it stands to reason that social media can also bring us back down if we're not careful and we're not protecting. But yeah, it's so fast and so big that you can't do it manually, right? No. Gone are the days when you could have an intern just looking at posts on Twitter and Facebook to see if anybody says anything bad. Yep. I mean, it's become major big business to be a bad guy on social media, right? Yeah. Not to bring kind of current events into it. But turn the news on, and you'll see any number of news stories about how a fake Facebook profile was used to bring down a major accounting firm, a major global accounting firm, and steal 20% of their customer records. Right? You'll see how Twitter was used by a foreign power to target 10,000 members of the United States Department of Defense in a coordinated assault, all led via Twitter, which kind of circumvents all the security protections that organizations have spent 20 years and millions of dollars putting in place. Yeah. And I think a lot of organizations, from my perspective, wanted to put their head in the sand and say, we're not going to do social, it's going to keep us safe, because I get it's risky. Yeah. But what I'm hearing from you is that that's not possible. If you want to compete in today's modern business environment, you have to be on social, and you have to enable your employees and your advocates to be engaged on social. Yeah. And so if you're worried at all, which you should be, right, about protecting your business, you need to automate security and compliance and other protection for your brand, your customers, your data, and your employees.
Well, one of the interesting things that you sort of touched on there is that there is that sort of other side, right, to people. So back in the day too, it was around viruses, and what there was that age-old thing, like the only cure is to unplug, right? That's really your only total. And so we do talk to people all the time. In fact, I talked to someone last night just about this who was saying, we're just not going to do it. That's the only way that we're going to be protected. And the audience themselves almost chimed in before I could to be like, that's not an option for you. Right. Like you're at a business disadvantage immediately out of the gates and there's a customer, customer lens. Right. There's an expectation that you're there in some capacity, not just in an advertising capacity, but maybe as a customer care. Yeah. Or and this person was in a highly regulated business, which we both do a lot of work in. And was almost trying to use that as an excuse, for not to be mean. But it was one of these things when it was like, that doesn't matter. We all sort of play into the highly regulated businesses and totally fine. You need to be there. You can dip your toe. You can have a little bit of a presence, and you can ease into your comfort level. But simply sort of pulling the plug or not participating. Not an option.
It's like saying, my company's not going to use the internet, right? That's kind of what we're saying here.
Pretty close.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's really interesting because we do have a lot of clients in regulated industries, but I think one of the interesting trends, and you mentioned this, right? Organizations of all sizes are moving into social media. I've actually seen businesses that on the smaller scale needing security and protection more so than even some of the big guys, just because of the impact it has to their business, right? The percentage impact that social media has, right? A major bank may lose $5 million from one fraud, all right? If somebody creates a fake account and says, hey, log in with your bank account and you're gonna get $100 in free rewards. Yeah. You get a couple thousand people that see that message, and that's a small percentage of your following. Yeah. that's a multi-million-dollar problem right there. But if you're a small, local hardware store trying to compete with the big guys, your loyalty of your customers is the only thing, because price is not your advantage.
Yeah.
The big guys have better buying power.
Yeah.
But if somebody compromises your account and starts sending out nasty images or racially charged posts, or completely just starts unfollowing and dumping all of your fans, I mean, you could have thousands of dollars, which percentage-wise is a lot more impactful to you than those $5 million to the big company, could put you out of business if you're not careful.